Hello, and thank you for joining us at Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is the podcast where we listen to and review classic albums and songs from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. I'm once again one of your hosts, half of this show, Justin, and I'm here with my other half, my
Casey Jones, driving my train high on cocaine.
That's not the song we're doing today,
No, it's not.
but it seems to me you don't want to talk about it.
Seems to me you just turn your pretty head and walk away.
Yeah, I might if you keep trying to drag us into the Grateful Dead today. That's for another show.
Oh, that's not Eric Clapton, is it?
No.
It's all right.
No, that's the fingerless Jerry Garcia, but we'll talk about that at another time.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do James Gang and one of their songs, one of their hit songs. They really only had a couple of them. They weren't together very long, but Walk Away. We actually did Funk 49 on an earlier episode, so if you're into the James Gang or want to know a little more about them, go check it out. But
especially if you like funk.
Funky rock.
That was funky rock.
Yeah, that's what's kind of cool about it, is because I really am not into funk music much, but this is, I would consider James Gang, or at least let's say Funk 49 and Walk Away, I would consider them funk heavy rock, but good stuff. Let me give you a little history on James Gang. They're an American rock and roll band formed in Cleveland, Ohio, way back in 1966. And like I stated, they've been explained as hard rock, blues rock, funk hard rock, whatever you want to call them. Good music, in my opinion. The band was originally formed by drummer Jim Fox, with multiple different members coming and going. And originally it consisted of Joe Walsh on guitars and vocals, Tom Criss on bass, and Jim Fox on drums. Now, Joe Walsh joined the band in early 1968, and the Power Trio recorded their debut album, Year album, that was released in March of 69. Tom Criss left the band in November 69, was replaced by Dale Peters on bass. One thing about it is one of my favorite bands, The Who. Pete Townsend actually liked this band quite well because they'd opened a few shows for The Who back in 1970, and he actually invited the James Gang to open for The Who during a UK tour, which really helped propel this band into some popularity. And this is another one of those bands where you talk about sometimes there's seed bands that start, and they've got a couple good tunes or whatever, but they go on to other things. And I wouldn't say everybody in this band did, but obviously Joe Walsh, went on to have a great solo career and a great career with the Eagles as well. The James Gang has opened up for many famous bands. The Who, like I spoke earlier, Grand Funk Railroad, The Kinks, Three Dog Night, and even Led Zeppelin, which all that helped their exposure greatly. Joe Walsh left the band at the end of 1971, basically due to the pressure of doing most of the writing, singing, guitar playing, everything. It was just too much pressure for him, so he decided he'd go be solo and do it all himself anyways. I'm not quite sure there, but
Yeah, this song really fits his personality.
it does, yeah. Yeah, he walked away. So James Gang replaced Joe Walsh with singer Roy Kenner and guitarist Dominic Troiano, and they really didn't have much popularity after that. But Tommy Bolin, who ended up in Deep Purple, actually replaced Dominic Troiano shortly after that. I'm not sure when, but he did. He was in the band for a little while. There were many other lineups with his band, but nothing that had any kind of success until they officially broke up in 1977. The original lineup did reunite a few times in the 90s and early 2000s. They also reunited in 2022 for a tribute concert for Taylor Hawkins. He's the drummer that died from the Foo Fighters. The band, all in all, released a total of 9 studio albums from 1969 to 1976, 1 live album, 3 compilation albums. Their top album in the U.S. was their second album called James Gang Rides Again, which hit number 20 in the U.S., and it also hit number 13 in Canada. They released a total of 16 singles in that time, 69 to 76, with Walk Away, this song we're doing today, being their top hit in the U.S., charting at number 51 is all. Funk number 49 was their top hit anywhere in Canada, charting at number 26. This is not one of the largest bands of all time by any means, but they have some really decent music, and it's worth checking out. They have about 3 million in album sales worldwide, all in all, which isn't too bad, because I think Funk 49 and Walk Away, I think if you listen to any kind of classic rock radio, you've heard them, but I think most people wouldn't have a clue who James Gang is.
No.
So do you want to get to the song review?
Yeah.
And now it's time for the song review.
So, of course, today we're doing James Gang and Walk Away. Tyler, before we get into this, what is your history with this song?
I have extensive history with this song, and yet I do not know this song by the name Walk Away. And yet that is definitely the name of the song. It is a predominant phrase repeated in this song.
Did you know the song by the band name? Would you ever been
No.
able to name any song by the James Gang?
No, I wouldn't even be able to name Funk 49.
Did you know Joe Walsh?
No, I thought that Joe Walsh's son got kidnapped and murdered, and then he started America's Most Wanted.
I think that's
his little brother John.
that's a different Walsh altogether.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
So let me give you a little history about the song Walk Away. So this one was written and sang by Joe Walsh. You got Joe Walsh on guitars and vocals, obviously, and on the album he is also credited, along with guitars and vocals, as Trainwreck. And that's referring to the distorted, cascading lead guitars that fade out at the end of the song, which are pretty cool.
Yeah.
You've got Dale Peters on bass and Jim Fox on drums. This single was released on April 1st of 1971 with a B-side called Ya Dig. We should have listened to that, but we didn't. This is the first single off of their third studio album titled Thirds. That's original. So this was recorded at the Record Plant in Los Angeles and the Hit Factory in New York City. I did a little research and I couldn't figure out. That's where they did the whole album Thirds. So I'm not sure exactly where this song was recorded at, one or the other, but one of those two. So the song was produced by the James Gang themselves and Bill Szymczyk. And Bill Szymczyk has produced a lot of famous musicians, B.B. King, Joe Walsh, obviously, the Eagles, Jay Giles Band, many, many others. So this song, like I stated earlier, reached number 51 in the U.S. charts, but the Canadians liked this one a little bit better. It did reach number 31 in Canada, as they liked Funk 49 a little better as well.
Yes, they did.
Reached, I think I said, number 26. So Canadians like the James Gang. This is the band's highest charting song here in the U.S. The Thirds album did chart at number 27 in the U.S. and was certified gold by the RIAA. Now, the song is basically about a man. He's the one that wants to talk about feelings, right? That's what's kind of strange about this song if you listen to the lyrics. And he wants to talk about his feelings and where the relationship is going. And she just wants to turn her pretty head and walk away.
Well, yeah, wham, bam, thank you, sir.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, okay, is that really what this is about? Is he singing it from his perspective, someone else's perspective? And because I had written on here, because that's how men are. They really look deep into their feelings and thoughts, right? They won't shut up about the relationships. And so it makes me kind of wonder, is Joe Walsh the kind of guy that really was that introspective about love and relationships, or is this from a different perspective, or who knows?
I know. I just really need someone to understand me and understand my feelings, hear my opinions, and validate me as a person.
I have heard that Joe Walsh was an amazing guy. I know he was dating Stevie Nicks, and Stevie Nicks said that was one of the hardest breakups she ever had, and he was an amazing person. And
that's because he likes to be the girl.
I
don't know.
He has feelings.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. But Joe Walsh actually covered this song again in 1976, live off of his You Can't Argue with a Sick Mind album. We listened to that version as well, which is actually quite a bit different.
Yeah, it is. I was surprised.
Yeah. That cover of his own song, I should say, made it to 105 on the Billboard charts. After listening to James Gang Walk Away, now you know that's the name of the song, the name of the band, and a few details. What were your thoughts on this song?
Has the same opening as Casey Jones. No, not at all.
No, it's quite a bit different.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. Although it does have a heavy guitar and it's got some of that funk to it. Then the drums join in and the bass. After the whole band gets going, then the lyrics start. And he's got a really good voice. It was mixed very well. Listening to his solo cover of this later, it was a live version and it just didn't sound nearly as clean or refined. Although the band sounded amazing for a live version, the vocals just seemed not as polished or well mixed.
Which makes sense when he's playing the guitar and singing, and it did seem quite a bit sped up compared to this version.
True. This song, it's got a very jaunty, happy-go-lucky kind of sounding tune. Really belies the lyrics and the message of this song, that he does want to sit and talk and, have it out about his feelings, and she just isn't having it. She wants to turn her pretty head and walk away. That makes him sad. She doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to talk about it. It was a decent song. It's a song that is very much, one word would be album filler, but I haven't listened to the rest of the songs on the album, so I'm not sure about that. But this is very much like a time filler on classic rock radio. And it gets played on classic rock radio, but the James Gang is one of those bands that seems to be lost to history and forgotten, even though very iconic, very good band, and I really like this funk rock and roll. So what are your thoughts about the James Gang's Walk Away?
Well, I will have to disagree with you completely.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything filler about this song. I've always really, really enjoyed this song, but it's right down my alley with the guitar. I don't think the James Gang has been lost to time. I mean, I look at it this way. They had 2 songs of any kind of prominence back in the day, and those 2 songs are still played heavily today.
True.
They weren't a very impactful band back in the day other than a couple songs, and their highest hitting 51 here in the U.S. charts. So I think they're probably more popular today than they were then in some ways. But like I stated earlier, I don't think anybody really knows who the James Gang is. I mean, I don't know how many people know Joe Walsh. Anybody that knows classic rock, knows the Eagles, knows good music, knows Joe Walsh, but I think even some of those people don't know Joe Walsh was part of the James Gang, and some people do because there's huge fans. I like the James Gang quite well, and I'm surprised they didn't do better than they did because I like their style of music. The great opening guitar riff that carries out through the verses, I think that's perfect. And I do like how funky it is. I really enjoy that. It's got good thick bass. It's got good thick bass in the songs. The drumming's great. Joe Walsh isn't somebody I would call a champion of vocals, but his vocal fits perfect in this song. It really does. I think it just fits great. Seems like when he gets into later years and he does some singing on his solo stuff and some of the Eagles stuff, his voice is a little more nasally and whiny, but it sounds better in this to me. It's just a really heavy, thick song. It's got a really decent guitar solo in the middle, and it's got that breakdown where he starts singing "Seems to Me," and the drums and the bass, I really like how they play out during that breakdown. Going to those cascading, distorted guitars that he plays on the end, I don't know if I think he's probably overdubbed 2 or 3 guitars.
Probably that's how he did it, right?
Yeah, and it sounds amazing. I think it's great. I don't like the fade out. I wish they could have changed that a little bit different and carried him out. Yeah, the guitars at the end is one of my favorite parts of this song, and I've always really enjoyed the James Gang. And a couple of their albums are pretty good because you can throw them on, and it's something different that you just don't hear every day.
For sure.
Yeah. So do you want to get the song rating?
Yeah, let's rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, if this is your first episode, our rating system is pretty basic. I'll explain it. It's 0 to 10, 0 being horrible and 10 being awesome. I put this one ahead of mediocre. I put this one at a 6. And I probably should bump it up because it's a better song than I'm giving it credit for. Really is.
Don't you always say that, though? I think anyone listening to this podcast knows you always say your rating and then you say it probably should be higher than that.
Yeah.
You give in to peer pressure too much, so I think you need to quit apologizing.
I'm not apologizing. Well, I am qualifying it. That's an apology enough. Okay.
Yeah, you're qualifying.
I put it at 6. I like this song, but not that much.
Fair enough.
Where do you put this one, Justin?
I put this song at an 8.5. I really enjoy this song. It's right down my alley with the guitars, the thick bass. It's perfect for me.
That's more fair than the rating I gave it because really, I love that train wreck, and I forgot to mention that in my review of it. I'm glad you mentioned it because that train wreck of guitars it's beautiful rock and roll.
Yeah, it's just a good straight ahead rock and roll song, and I like most of what Joe Walsh does.
Yeah,
I like. I'm not the biggest Eagles fan in the world, but the stuff that he's on and that he takes lead guitar on, I think shine over the rest of it.
for sure.
So that is the James Gang and Walk Away. And like always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, songs, albums you'd like us to review, please send them to classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. We do really appreciate you listening. So until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates and also share us with your music-loving friends.